Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today's topic that we are going to talk about is Waswasa and Islamic teachings on it. Waswasa is an Arabic word which means to put bad thoughts in the heart. The word sums up as wasawis. In the light of Sharia, it means wasawis is something that deceives the mind, puts him away from good deeds, amal, puts a person in a state of blame. This act of shaitan is called waswasa. The strength and nature given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is polluted by the wrong and bad thoughts by shaitan through waswasa. As shaitan is the biggest enemy of man, it is his complete effort that man must not be left to live in peace. This is why he troubles people on the basis of the level of Iman by putting waswasas in them. There are several types of waswasas. The more frequent kind of waswasas are the one that lead to sinning. That, oh man, do this sin, or do this permitted thing or haram thing. Listen to this wrong talk, or use your tongue to say this wrong thing, etc. And sometimes waswasas are even created about Iman, that whether there is an Allah or not, or what we heard about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is that even correct? In Sunan Abi Dawood, hadith number 5112, it is mentioned that once a Sahabi mentioned to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam salatu salam that, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I am in trouble from the waswasas that come to my heart very often. For me to even mention them to you, it is better for me to get burnt and become like coal than to mention them to you. Meaning, they are such bad thoughts that it is better for me to get burnt and become like coal. I would prefer that more than it is for me to utter them from my tongue. The Blessed Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam salatu salam gave a unique reply. First, he said, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. 3 times praised the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then said, Da tas sari al-iman, meaning this is the sign of possessing the highest levels of Iman, the signs of possessing only Iman. Don't worry, because shaitan only puts waswasas in the hearts of those people who are a mu'min, and his heart is endowed with the capital of Iman. It is because of the presence of Iman in you that you consider this to be so bad that you would prefer getting burnt into coal. Our sheikhs have given examples to explain this, that a thief will only enter into the houses of those wherever there is wealth and capital. Wherever there is no wealth or capital, a thief would never go to such a place. Wherever there is no wealth, he would never steal from such a place. If the thoughts of sin and wasawis come repeatedly, but if a person doesn't act on those wrong thoughts, there is no accountability or the charge of sin on that person. From the qudra of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is no charge or punishment on this. During salah, often thoughts come and people worry because of them. Please remember that the thoughts that come to the mind without forceful efforts of thinking them on these, there is no punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In a hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam salatu salam said that for my sake, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forgiven all such thoughts of my ummah and ignored those thoughts which come into the heart until the time the ummah doesn't act on it or say anything. Meaning, it should not be put into action. It must only remain as thoughts. Until then, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ignored it. This hadith is from the Sahih Muslim, volume 127. Yes, after the wasawis come into the heart, the person must not get engaged in that act. This must be remembered. Rather, move the focus and attention away from it, and remember that whatever word I expel from my tongue will be carefully thought and with focus. Do not engage yourself in thoughts. Remember that if you are not engaged in the action of those thoughts, there is no binding or punishment on you. But yes, if you get engaged in them, or when the thoughts come and you act upon them, there is accountability and punishment. This is the ruling of Sharia on it. If, however, a person gets involved in the wasawas, what is the cure of this in the light of Sharia? Yes, the cure is mentioned in the light of Sharia. In order to protect you from these wasawis, in hadith there are supplications mentioned about them. If the wasawis come regarding faith, one must read Amantu billahi wa rasulihi. If a wasawis comes during salah, one must read A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Or if in other matters, or he creates doubts and suspicions, one must read La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. In order to put the waswasas away, the experienced treatment is to immediately deflect the mind from the wasawis and rather put the focus on a good thought or amal. The kind of wasawis a person is often faced it. If he engages in them, those wasawis keep increasing and troubling him more. But when a man strives to put his attention away from those waswasas, they go away by themselves. Another way for those waswasas that come during namaz, the ulama have said that right before namaz, those good deeds and constructive things that were done must be retrieved. This is point number 1, that one must achieve purity and cleanliness first. The act of purity begins all the way from urination. One must be mentally satisfied from fully cleaning himself after using the restroom. If, however, there is some dirt left as a result of not cleaning properly, there will be waswasas created in exchange of all that is left. Therefore, it is important to not leave any stain of nabaki on oneself. The second part of that is that the person must make wudu properly. There should be no insufficiency or negligence in it. Also, must make the supplications of wudu as has been learned from our sheikhs. The third amal, as the ulama have said, is to pray Tahiyatul Wudu or Tahiyatul Masjid, as it has been famously called. Point number 4 is that the sunnah before the wudu that has been mentioned must be completed. These 4 amal are such that if a person does it wholeheartedly, we are hopeful from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, insha'Allah, during salah he will not be bothered by wasawis. Even if they come, deflect the mind away from it. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that may He protect the entire brotherhood and sisterhood from the wasawis of shaitan.